Welcome to No Facts Needed, and today we're going to be talking about the Tennessee Titans and Mike Vrabel cutting off his penis. Let's jump right into it. So we have the Titans ranked as the 22nd team in the NFL right now.
Out of 32.
My record prediction is 5-11. Eli, what is yours?
Mine is 9-7.
Oh, wow.
Which is a little bit of a safe bet.
Vegas has them at a total of 8.5 wins. In the last 4 seasons, they've gone 9-7. So let's look at their schedule. So obviously, they play in the AFC South with the Colts and Texans and Jags. Pretty easy division compared to most. But then they play the AFC North, which is pretty hard, with the Browns, Ravens, and Steelers. And then the NFC North, which is even another hard division with the Vikings, Packers, and even the Lions and Bears are going to be competitive. They also play the Broncos and the Bills. My thoughts is it's a pretty hard schedule, you know?
Yeah. I think a lot of people are expecting this team to be back in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think NFL Network or ESPN, one of the two, had them like number 8 in their rankings.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to be in the playoff picture for most of the year. But I just, as I did like my, predictions, they just didn't make it for me.
Let's talk about the offseason. We'll start with the draft. They got Isaiah Wilson, offensive tackle, Christian Fulton, cornerback, and then a late pick that's a personal favorite of mine.
Near and dear to your heart.
Cole McDonald. We'll talk about him later. Signings, they only got Vic Beasley and Jack Crawford, and then they lost Jack Conklin, Marcus Mariota, Tajay Sharp, Dion Lewis, Ryan Suckup, Cameron Wake, Delaney Walker, Logan Ryan, Wesley Woodard, Tremaine Brock, and Jarrell Casey. A lot of those players are just role players and won't really miss that much. Logan Ryan did have 4 interceptions last year, and Jarrell Casey is just one of those veterans on the defense that they're definitely going to miss. And
I think the biggest loss is Jack Conklin.
Yeah, they're a right tackle. What are your thoughts on this offseason? I said not very good at all.
Yeah, they did let a lot of pieces go. I'm not mad at the pieces they got in return, per se. But I do think that they're, like, a lot of these players, like Logan Ryan and Jarrell Casey, are kind of like some of the guys who helped propel them into the playoffs. So I think they're going to miss not necessarily like their production as much as like their presence in the locker room and on the team.
Let's move on to some coaches. Only real coach that's real notable on this team is Mike Vrabel. He will cut off his penis if he wins the Super Bowl. Not he would want to, but he's going to. I'll make it happen.
In exchange for the Super Bowl ring, he would,
No, I'm saying once he gets it, he's done with his penis.
I don't think that's...
All right, let's move on to some positions. Quarterback.
Tanny.
Old Ryan Tannehill.
Mm-hmm.
Tannehill is definitely overrated. I'll say that. But that being said, he's not that bad. He's not a franchise quarterback, and he's not really ever shown any real flashes. But last year, he had 70% completion on 2,700 yards, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So... he's good at keeping the ball safe and good at putting it where it needs to be, but he's definitely not a franchise quarterback. He's not going to win you games. He needs pieces around him to really be good.
Yeah. He's been really injury prone.
Yeah.
And he was healthy last year. So for a guy that doesn't really have a high floor, that's kind of also
scary.
A cause for concern.
I graded him, this position group, as a C+. I think we moved on to running back. Derrick Henry is a beast. He is an absolute tank of a man. Can truck everyone on the field. He did kind of have a slow start to his career and really went off towards the end of the season. I mean, he had 1,500 yards, 16 touchdowns, 5 fumbles, and 5.1 yards per carry. But I think he's a little overrated. I think he's really good, and he probably deserves the money that he got. But if you look at the stats over the last 6 games, that's where he really got the chunk of his yardage. I'm not saying, he's a good running back because he did that, but I don't know if he's going to be consistent. Because if you looked over the first 2 seasons of his career, he didn't really have the same, oomph behind him.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Anytime you have like one season that's so far better than the rest, you have to be like a little cautious.
With all that being said, I still graded him as an A. He's a great running back, and he probably won't repeat what he did, but if he does 80% of what he did, they have the ability to still make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So let's go to wide receivers. Old A.J. Brown came out of nowhere, just torched the league up, had 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, and second in yards per catch, and 14th in yards after catch.
AJ Brown is super good, like with the ball in his hands. That's where he really makes his money. That's why he scores. Well, his speed combined with that, like he's like a running back when he gets the ball.
Uh-huh.
But I think the thing for him needs to be like he needs to get more involved. Corey Davis is like more or less a pretty massive disappointment at this point.
Big old bust.
He's good at contested catches, but he doesn't really like get open.
Yeah.
So every now and then he'll make a grab, but not. I mean, he's a starter in the league probably for the rest of his career. But and then they've got Humphreys, who's like a good slot receiver. You know, I mean, so that's not a hole for them. And
then other than that, there's no one really other than them. There's no one really at that position.
Yeah.
I graded them as a B+, and I really think AJ Brown really helps that grade.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let's talk about tight ends. Jonnu Smith, you talk about him.
He was really good last year, especially in the home stretch, like in the playoffs. He looked really good, made some great catches. He blocked pretty well, obviously, with how they ran the ball.
I actually graded that as a C, just because he is super athletic and he has shown some flashes, but he hasn't really shown a lot I think he's been in the league for 3 years and he hasn't really got that many yards. He has been sharing with Delaney Walker and hasn't really had a great quarterback, but still he hasn't really shown his athleticism as much as he probably should be.
Yeah.
So let's move to O-line.
Well, I'm just going to talk about their O-line as a whole for a second. I think they're a little bit overrated. And I say that because last year, obviously, they gashed everyone in the run game. And I will give you that. They are super good at just mauling people because all these guys are huge. So that's where they make their money for sure. But in terms of pass protection, I know they run a lot of play action. Yeah. Which kind of helps Tannehill, manipulate the pocket to where he wants to be and not really have to stand in there for very long. But sometimes you still need to be able to do that. And they had the highest adjusted sack rate in the league last year, actually, at 11.2%. They only gave up, I think it was like less than 40 sacks, 35 to 40, somewhere in there. So it wasn't like a glaring weakness. Like if you watch them, you probably wouldn't think, O-line was really bad. But they need to do a better job of consistently protecting in the pass game. And I think that they're going to run into a little bit of a problem just because, like you said, they're going to replace Conklin, who was one of their better linemen, with the rookie Isaiah Wilson, who a lot of people thought he should have been playing guard in the first place. But I say all that to say it's still a good unit. Lawan, like you said, is really, really good. Saffold, again, one of the better starters at guard in the league. Ben Jones had a really good year last year, even though that was kind of like the first time he's been better than average in his career. And then Nate Davis is fine to go along with Isaiah Wilson. So I think this unit is about like in the 10 to 20 range of the offensive lines in the league.
Yeah.
Like they're going to allow them to run the ball, obviously. But I do think at times when you run into like a really good pass rush, or if you have to back Ryan Tannehill up in the shotgun 7 or 8 yards deep, they're going to run into some issues.
Yeah. I graded them as a B+. Let's move on to defense, starting with D-line. I'll let you talk about them too.
Their D-line was really good again last year. Part of the reason why they were able to beat the Ravens and the Patriots. But they are losing a couple of those guys, like Jarrell Casey especially. And I think their pieces that they have now are still pretty good. Like, I really like Jeffrey Simmons.
Yeah.
He's a really explosive, and he probably would have been like a top 15 pick if he didn't get hurt at Mississippi State. So I think that's a bright spot. He, probably your best D lineman at this point, honestly. And then you have, Daquan Jones, who's just going to, plug the run.
Big old space eater.
Other than that, you're going to be rotating guys in a lot, like Jack Crawford and, just a bunch of bodies, basically, to kind of wear the defense down. And but I don't think it's a bad thing.
Yeah. So I rated them as a B-. Like you said, just some big old space eaters pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't really have a pass rush, but they can stop the run for sure. We can talk about linebackers. First off, Vic Beasley. I don't know if he's going to play because there's been he just hasn't shown up to training camp pretty much.
I think he's going to or something like that.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
But as of now, we still have him here. He had one amazing year and been all right since. He actually had 8 sacks and 2 forced fumbles last year. Kind of surprised me.
Yeah.
I know he's been kind of disappointing. I think Vrabel is going to be able to help him a lot because he has that, ability. He just hasn't been able to utilize it all. The other pass rusher on the other side is Harold Landry. He's actually pretty good. 3rd-year player, 9 sacks last year. Isn't a game changer, but he's definitely going to make some plays for you, You should definitely be scared of these 2 guys coming off the edge. And then they got some pretty good middle linebackers that can play coverage and get a lot of tackles. Jayon Brown, good young guy. Is getting better in the pass coverage, gets sacks, and is a good tackler, kind of like I already said. And then Rashaan Evans going into his 3rd year. 1st-round pick a while ago.
Rashaan Evans is really good in the run game. Like, that's definitely his strong suit. He's really physical, and he, will hit you really, really hard. And then actually last year he was pretty good in pass coverage. So I think he's one of your best players on defense, probably one of your leaders. And then you have Jayon Brown and Correa last year, who really, really stepped up and helped them in the playoffs a lot. I don't know how much of that is just their defense as a whole was just humming last year. But, if you can get the same thing out of him, he's kind of been a journeyman to this point. But, that's a little bit of an intriguing piece, as another edge rusher possibly to kind of come and rotate in. But, yeah, I think their edge group and their linebackers are really solid. With Harold Landry and Vic Beasley, they have a ton of speed.
I graded them right at a B+, but if Vic Beasley can kind of do what he did a couple years ago, this can definitely become like an A group because they do have a lot of talent and a lot of good players here. Mm-hmm. So we can talk about defensive back, their secondary. We can start with Malcolm Butler. Definitely got paid off his Super Bowl heroics, but is still a solid player. He played 9 games last year and got 2 picks, and then the year before that he got 3. So, yeah, he did get paid off his Super Bowl heroics, but he has been solid. He has done good stuff. Mm-hmm. They also have Adoree Jackson, 1st-round pick 3 years ago.
Really, really good. Adoree is really good, especially in man, just because he's so athletic.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter how small he is, even though he does, they move him around a little bit.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he's really good. And then they have the ageless wonder, Jonathan Joseph.
Yeah.
Also come in every now and then. And Christian Fulton, who I actually did like coming out of LSU. Fell to the 2nd round. I think that was a good pick. So their secondary is really solid.
Yeah.
And then they have Kevin Byard, who is one of the best center fielder type safeties who just sits in the middle and runs sideline to sideline.
Total playmaker,
annoying the quarterback a lot. And then Kenny Vaccaro, who's gonna be their box safety as long as Amani Hooker doesn't take that over from him. Which again, really solid player, kind of on the back end of his career probably, but still good for sure.
Has some injury history. If he can stay healthy, it's going to be great for this team. Mm-hmm. And then one last thing about Kevin Byard, total playmaker. In the last 3 years, he's had 17 interceptions. That's just kind of insane for a player to do that.
Yeah.
Some players don't even have that in their whole entire career.
Yep.
Let's move on to their ability to win games. I personally think I have them going 5-11, but they definitely have the ability to make the playoffs, especially in this division. I think any of these teams in their division can win the division and make the playoffs.
I think they're going to be in every game they play, and there's going to be games, like I said, where they look like they did last year, and you're like, wow, that's really impressive. But then also, there's just going to be times where they just are not going to be able to get over the hump, like when you're playing Kansas City, for instance, and you kind of need your offense to pick it up and not just run the ball every time. And they just have they're a little bit limited by their quarterback situation, so I think that kind of brings them down a little bit. But as a whole, this is a really solid team. Yeah,
we can talk about some pros about this team. Like you said, they can still score. They have Derrick Henry, and if Derrick Henry can play like he did in the back half of the season, they're going to win a lot of games. And even though they did lose Jack Conklin, they still have a good O-line. Mm-hmm. Let's be honest. Tannehill probably isn't the franchise guy. They did lose a lot of pieces. Even if they weren't that good, they still got worse over the offseason. And I honestly think last year was their ceiling. I don't know if they're going to get any better than what they did last year.
Yeah. They got really, really hot at the end of the year. And, they were just one of those teams. Like we've seen in the past. They just were like on it at the end of the season, and they took that into the playoffs and almost like made the Super Bowl, which is great for them. But now when everything settles down and everybody's like at a level playing field to start the season, I think this team, kind of like they do year to year, is just going to kind of struggle a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. Well, this has been No Facts Needed. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and comment. Let us know down below what's your record prediction, what you think about the Titans. If you think we're idiots, let us know. And if you actually like our video, please like. See you guys next time. Thanks for watching.